Now, first story, 5 unemployed nurses who defied police instructions during a protest march on Monday are in police custody. The 5 were among over 100 members of the coalition of unemployed bonded nurses and midwives who clashed with the police because they insisted on marching to the presidency. The nurses say they want government to hire them, having completed their training for some time now. Komla Dome has more.
Numbering over 100, the nurses filed in one after the other at the Obra spot and had set out on the ring road in the direction of a Jubilee House. But the police made it clear they will not permit that route.
Our leadership have been in contact with the police commander and other security personnel. But they're saying they've given them the permission to go to the last half of the Jubilee House, but they should not go. But we don't get it because we travel all along from Kintampo. We don't have money, but we try to come here only for them to prevent us today, this morning, after wasting our money to get in here. So we must go. We are citizens of the state, and we are never going to be spectators. So go there. If they brutalize it, we are fighting for our rights.
The protesting nurses were bent on defying the police, but the police were determined to stop them. After about 2 hours of back and forth, representatives from the office of the president came to meet the nurses, but their presence rather riled the protesting nurses some more. Amidst the boos, Director of Political Affairs at the Office of the Chief of Staff, Frank Bequin, assured a 6-member delegation of nurses will meet officials at the presidency Tuesday over the matter.
The Chief of Staff has sent me here today to come and pick the petition on behalf of Mr. President. We have agreed with your leadership that 6 of them will come to the presidency for us to sit down and listen to your concerns and take matters up. Be rest assured that a government that has restored nursing training allowance will care for you. We are going to meet your leadership and accept your grievances, and we will see together how we will be able to resolve this matter amicably.
Unsatisfied and unappeased, some of the nurses blamed their leaders for bowing to pressure.
We were supposed to go to the Jubilee House, but the police are preventing us from going. Now we are gathered here. We managed to swap, I don't know how to put it. We were going and they are not stopping us that we should do. Now our leaders have rejected us. They said they won't go again because they are saying that we shouldn't come there. They will spray us with acid.
They are going to spray us.
The police are saying they will spray us so we shouldn't go.
We saw a representative from the Flagstaff House come there to receive your petition. Is that not satisfactory?
We are not, they always promise us, they've always been promising us that clearance has come. Even the whole Minister of Health told us that clearance is in his office, which is never true. So we are tired of the mouth promises. We want documents that our clearance has been released. That's what we want.
Secretary to the Coalition of Unemployed Bonded Nurses and Midwives tells JoyNews 5 of his colleagues who were arrested were accused of defying police orders.
Let's now speak with the president of the Coalition of Unemployed Bonded Nurses for the very latest. Opo Daniel, thank you for joining us. Are your members still in custody as we speak, the 5 who were arrested by the police?
Hello.
Yes, Daniel Obo, I'm asking if your members, the 5 members who were arrested by the police, are they still in custody?
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Our members, 5 members who were arrested at the police custody, as we speak now, they have just been released. I'm coming from the regional police headquarters, and we have had them released, or they granted them bail, and so they are currently on their way to their various homes. Were they charged at all? They were actually charged of misconduct, but then as we got there, went to the crime office, and we spoke with the commander. And according to him, asked them, we pleaded for them to be granted bail, and then he accepted it. So they actually been granted bail.
All right, now, so what would you say you have achieved with today's demonstration?
I would say no, but we're still on it. God willing, tomorrow we'll be meeting the Chief of Staff and other delegation from the Flagstaff House, and we would have deliberation as to have this issue resolved as soon as possible. So God willing, tomorrow we will be on the meeting, and then the outcome of the meeting will determine whether our aim has been achieved or not.
Now, this demonstration that you embarked on today, was it a plan that you were going to march to the Jubilee House? Was that the plan all along?
Yes, it was our initial plan that we would march peacefully to the Jubilee House, but the request that we sent for permission from the police was not granted according to the route. I mean, the route that we requested for was not granted. For that matter, they suggested that we ended up at the House of Oak Park, which we did not accept that. And so we wanted to meet the media this morning, telling them the reason why we may not be able to get to the Jubilee House. Unfortunately, a few members that got there were agitated of the news about the police having denied us access to the Jubilee House. For that matter, they insisted that they wanted to go there, which led to the arrest of 5 members.
As it stands now, Obuo Daniel, some of your members are saying they've lost confidence in you because they believe you sold them out. How do you react to that?
We are saying that we are law-abiding citizens, and leadership wouldn't want to take the laws into our hands by going to the Jubilee House without the permission of the police. And for that matter, we couldn't have led them to the Jubilee House while the police haven't granted us. But just have to continue to have dialogue with the police and then other bodies whom it may concern, so that the actual permission is granted or given before we could do that. That is the reason why we couldn't lead them to the Jubilee House. But we leadership are still doing our very best to have our question resolved as soon as possible.
All right, thank you very much. Daniel Obuo is president of the Coalition of Bonded Nurses and Midwives, and he joined us to bring us the very latest on this story having to do with the protest march by his members. Now, moving on, the Accra High Court has admitted into evidence a sample of Litovit foliar fertilizer in the case in which former Cocoa Board CEO Dr. Stephen Opuni is charged with causing financial loss to the state. Trial Judge Clemens Honyenuga on Monday ruled that it was relevant to the case despite objection from defense lawyers. Lawyers for the former Cocoa Board CEO on Monday said they could not independently authenticate the sample as what was actually approved by Cocoa Board in the year 2014. The court, however, disagreed. There's more in the following report.
7 months after Dr. Stephen Opuni was arraigned, only 1 out of more than 5 witnesses the state is to call to give evidence has ended his testimony. A research scientist at the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, Craig, Dr. Alfred Arthur, was on Monday called as the state's second witness. He said he had worked with Craig over the past 8 years, rising through the ranks to become the acting director of Soil Science Division. Dr. Arthur informed the court he was tasked by Craig to test a number of fertilizers, including the controversial Litovit foliar fertilizer. It will be recalled the state prosecutors had accused Dr. Opuni of causing the loss to the state in the award of the foliar fertilizer supply contract to businessman Seydou Agongo. The efficacy of the fertilizer as well as its short testing period has been subject of intense debate between lawyers on both sides. Lawyers for the former Cocoa Board CEO on Monday objected to the presentation of a sample of the fertilizer as evidence. Lead counsel for Dr. Opuni, Samuel Kujo, on Monday argued the sample presented cannot be what was tested by Craig in 2013. He insisted the container would have been lighter if it had been used by Craig. Director of Public Prosecution Yvonne Atakro-Bobisa urged the court to disregard the objection and admit the sample since it was relevant to the state's case. She explained the witness, Dr. Alfred Arthur, who tested the fertilizer, had identified it and was to tell the court what quantum was used in 2013. Justice Honyenuga overruled the objection, saying it was relevant to the case. The defense lawyer then objected to another document which the state wanted to present to the court. The document was the test result as recorded by Dr. Alfred Arthur. That objection was also overruled. The case has been adjourned to November 2.
The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is expected to have a newly reconstituted governing council by Friday. The Chancellor of the University, that's Antihini Otumfuo Tutu II, is expected to lead the reconstitution of the new council, which is expected to take over from the interim council. Information Minister Designate Kojo Nkrumah announced this after a crunch meeting with UTAG and other stakeholders on Monday. The university is also expected to reopen on November 8. Nancy Emefa-Jardozi was at the Education Ministry for the meeting, which she reports was disrupted several times.
Some 30 minutes into the meeting that began at 2 p.m., members of the University Teachers Association of Ghana stepped out of the conference room to hold a caucus meeting. They then rejoined the government team, which included the Minister of State in charge of Tertiary Education, Deputy Minister of Education, the Senior Minister, the Information Minister Designate, and the National Security Minister. They emerged from the meeting again after 30 minutes, this time at the request of the government team. The news conference, which was jointly addressed by the government team and UTAG, followed after another 1 hour and 30 minutes of deliberations.
Now, today, Monday, 29th of October 2018, government requested the Chancellor of the University, Otumfuo Tutu, to lead the next steps in reconstituting the University Council in accordance with the University Statute and relevant laws. Council is expected to be reconstituted by Friday, November 2nd, 2018. The reconstituted council will then take over from the interim governing council.
The UTAG President, Dr. Opoku Mensah, in his remarks urged government to honor the agreement reached at the meeting.
We support it and we are going to abide by it to make sure that law and order is restored on KNUST campus and our dear students return back for us to do what we love to do best. We're hoping that all arrangements being put in place to make sure the council is reconstituted, Vice Chancellor restored, all of it would work accordingly, according to the timetable.
He also called on UTAG members to restore their services, asking all other stakeholders to join in resolution efforts.
Government has subsequently engaged with UTAG and updated the association accordingly of the developments that I've mentioned earlier. UTAG has undertaken to restore services, cooperate in resolution efforts, and encourage other stakeholders to join resolution efforts.
Dr. Opoku Mensah also tells JoyNews the Vice Chancellor of the KNUST, Professor Kwesi Obridanso, is expected to be reinstated. Nancy Emefa-Jardozi, JoyNews.
In a related development, the KNUST chapter of the Teachers and Educational Workers Union of Ghana, TEU, earlier they staged a demonstration to demand the restoration of the dissolved governing council of the university and vowed to continue to protest each day the council remained dissolved. The group's leader, Charles Arthur, addressed hundreds of demonstrators who took to the streets of Kumasi to register their displeasure.
Our security personnel do not attack students. Our security men respect students, particularly those in the Katanga Hall. None of the allegations leveled against them are true. It was the hall master who requested the campus security to protect the students. That was no job too much for them to handle. So if police officials and others decide to take over, then it is problematic. The state security is responsible for all the troubles on campus now. If this matter is not resolved properly, then as workers who elected the government to constitute the council, we will not sit and look on. We will continue to gather here until the council is restored. TEU does not recognize the interim management committee.
Is restored. Every day, one government and restore. Yes. Council no. 2, you recognize IMC no. Yes. 3, second government and restore. Abribia, you may meet you as I know yes. Yeah. And you
We're staying with the KNUST Post. The minority in Parliament is calling for the head of the Education Minister and Minister for Tertiary Education over recent happenings there. Addressing journalists at Parliament House, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu said the ministers backed the plan by the Vice-Chancellor to convert the single-sex halls into mixed ones, and so they should also be held responsible for the chaos that followed the decision. He accused government of infringing upon academic freedom with its interference.
And ministerial approval, which is at the heart of the conflict and the impasse. And we demand that the students be heard, and they must be heard appropriately. Because, accept it or not, they are a major and a key stakeholder in this enterprise. We want to, ladies and gentlemen of the press, Professor Kwesi Obiri-Danso must be removed because of the policy and its recommendation. Childish, to say the least. Just because there is an impasse between students and management and the Vice-Chancellor, go home. Suffice it to say, then we can stretch it. So it means that all those who endorse it must go home. That will include the Honorable Minister for Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and Professor Kwesi Yanka, who has been Dean of Students before, at least at my time in Lagos. So if the policy is that if there is this conflict and a conversion is leading to a crisis and the Vice-Chancellor can be held responsible, the Minister for Education, and in particular the Minister responsible for tertiary education, must be held responsible to it. More fundamentally, I want to express our deep worry for what appears to have become a consistent pattern by government to invade autonomous tertiary institutions and remove principal officers. We know what happened at the University of Education, Winneba, the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and the Cape Coast Polytechnic. Let's not extend our petty partisanship into the arena of academia. These are respected persons who have demonstrated knowledge and contributing to knowledge development in our country. We declare.
Now, some children in several communities in 4 regions were not vaccinated in the just-ended national campaign against measles and rubella because nurses lack a means of transport to hard-to-reach villages. The Eastern, Volta Central, and the 3 regions of the North were affected. JoyNews' Justice Bedu traveled with one nurse to the island community of Echi in the Afram Plains to see how medics access these areas for vaccinations with other means of travel on water. Here's his report.
Moses Ganke is setting out on one of his everyday journeys in a canoe powered by a small outboard motor. He is on his way to deliver vaccines that fight measles and rubella, but the road ahead is a difficult one. There are more than 5,000 people on different islands ahead of him. It's dangerous traveling on the Volta Lake around this time of the year. There are strong winds blowing, making the canoe very unsteady, and the water level is unusually high and cold.
Ghana Health Service is not having an engine boat. We have to get to about 3-4 communities in a day, and we have spent almost 5 hours on the river. Where are you going to get the extra time to reach the people in these island communities?
We have crossed 2 water bodies in the last 1 hour of travel on this river, and I'm told there are about 10 villages still ahead of us. There's a strong wind currently blowing, which makes the boat unsteady, and the water levels are unusually high. These times of the year are some of the most dangerous traveling on this river. But for medics who work in this area, reaching these communities with vaccines could mean the difference between life and death for some children, and so they would have to brave the odds.
The canoe we are traveling in now is a commercial one that moves in and out of the island once a day. And so if you miss it, you have no other means of traveling there.
Thank you.
I've had to pay the boat rider 150 cedis to charter it for this trip. This is the Echi community. a fishing island home to about 1,000 people. This year's rubella and measles vaccine is supposed to be for children between 9 months and 5 years.
Because my baby has been vaccinated, I think she's safe. I am happy. The nurses find it hard coming here. When there are high winds, they can't come, and there's no clinic here.
If the one who is not immunized should have the disease, it can affect the one who has been immunized, because we have other means of transmitting diseases.
This woman is lucky she had her child vaccinated, but many others, not just here, but hundreds of islands in this area, may not get the vaccine, putting them at risk of a killer disease that is otherwise preventable. Justice Bedu, JoyNews, in the Afram Plains.
A former Attorney General Dr. Beda Samoa has rebutted calls by traditional authorities in southern Volta for the referendum on the creation of the proposed OT region to be extended to the entire Volta region, describing it as unconstitutional. According to him, the argument that the Constitution has enshrined that referendum on new regions should be organized in the entire affected area is legal nonsense. Speaking at a news conference in his hometown, Ulekpe, in the Hohoe municipality of the Volta region, Dr. Samoa explained the Constitution mandates a commission of inquiry constituted on the creation of new regions to specify issues to be determined by the referendum and where it should be held. Fred Kwame Asari's report.
Several chiefs in the southern part of the Volta region, including the president of the National House of Chiefs and Agbogbo Mefia of the Asogli State, Togbi Apede the 14th, have been calling for the participation of the entire region in the referendum on the territorial split of the region. However, Dr. Samoa, who participated in the framing of the 1992 Constitution, rebuts that argument.
Specifying the issues to be determined by the referendum and the places where the referendum should be held. It's the Commission of Inquiry that specifies that. It's not even the President. It is within the jurisdiction of the Commission of Inquiry. So when the Commission, the Probate Commission has made this report, they have recommended that the referendum be held in only part of Volta region, on only that part that will be affected by the creation of a new region. It is within their remit to do that. It's within their power. Even the President cannot alter that. And you will see that in clause 5.
He lamented the underdeveloped state of the OT enclave and expressed optimism a new region would harness development in the area.
Obviously, the cake, the national cake that will be cut for the whole of Volta region, they will now have to split it. And some of it will have to go to the north. The people in the south alone cannot benefit from all of it because the government will assign a certain part of it to the north. If you look at the south, you can count the number of prominent people who held government positions. Naturally, they influenced the decisions of government with regard to development.
Dr. Samoa, who indicated he has no personal interest in the call for a new region, urged the opposition National Democratic Congress to fully support the cause so as not to lose their stronghold to the governing New Patriotic Party.
I am only fighting for prosperity. I don't have a personal interest. Now, this political issue that I raised, you will see the last paragraph of my statement that I'm warning the NDC people not to be seen to be against OT region. You know, it's because of the experience of Upper West. If the OT region is created, and it will be created because the people in the north, I mean from this side, they are going to vote massively for it. When it's created, and it appears it's the NDC that was resisting the creation of it, the political consequence will be that the NDPP will harness the support of the people.
Fred Kwame Asari's report for JoyNews.
A new technology to help cocoa farmers shore up their productivity and make their work easier has been introduced in the Trifo Praso district of the central region. The technology includes how cocoa beans are extracted from the pod and the pollination of the pollens to the cocoa trees. MP for the Chifo Etimokwa, Abraham Juma Odum, who is leading the project, is hoping the new innovation will improve productivity in the cocoa sector. Richard Kojonyako has more.
The technology is in two folds. The first helps in getting the cocoa beans out of the pods in a much faster and productive manner. And the second, one that requires the fast pollination of cocoa trees.
It's manufactured, and I know that the importer...
Rian Paul, the innovator, talks about how the technology operates.
It's not difficult, but it's frustrating to have to, after you crack a pod, to manually strip the beans. They're very slimy. It's not pretty. It's not comfortable to do, and so a lot of people don't do it. And when that doesn't happen, then the quality of the fermentation is poor, thus the flavor is poor. So if we could find a way so the farmers didn't have to do that part, they could do two things at once: crack the pod and strip the beans with one tool. That's both productivity and efficiency.
In the second option, cocoa farmers that usually go through a hectic time to get their cocoa trees pollinated have a relief. Whereas 50 men would have done 1 hectare a day under normal circumstances, 2 men can comfortably do the same job with the aid of the technology. Constantino Vecua is a technologist for this.
I saw the cocoa farming system, and I saw how many tedious manual labor steps are. It was my natural desire to see and find if there is any way which this big amount of manual labor can be reduced or altogether eliminated, so that farmers have more productivity and less stress while working in cacao farms.
MP for Chifo Etimokwa, Abraham Juma Odum, tells JoyNews after the successful implementation of the technology in the district, other regions in the country would benefit.
I believe in one thing. If you are a leader, you must be an innovator. Politics is about ideas. What ideas you bring on board to help alleviate the poverty of your people.
The two innovations are expected to have less manual labor, less time consumption rates, and farmers would have better results under this. Richard Kwejenyako, JoyNews, Cape Coast.
Now we're getting some updates about the assault of one of our reporters here at JoyNews whilst covering former President John Mahama's campaign here in the Greater Accra region. We'll be bringing you that story in a bit. He has been assaulted, and we have some images to share with you. Plus, we're also getting a statement from the John Mahama camp. We'll be sharing all that with you in a bit. But right now, the minority in Parliament is accusing President Akufo-Addo of committing an illegality in the appointment of Martin Oti-Jakun as Deputy Branhafu Regional Minister. The Constitution requires the President to consult substantive ministers in appointing deputies. The minority says the appointment was done in breach of the Constitution because there was no substantive minister at the time the deputy was appointed. Minority leader Haruna Idrisu is asking the President to do the right thing and withdraw the nomination. He was speaking at the ministerial vetting of the Branhafu Minister Designate.
The President shall, with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint for each region a Minister of State who shall represent the President in the region and be responsible for the coordination and direction of the administration machinery in the region. And Chair, this is my emphasis. It reads 2562. The President may, in consultation with the Minister of State for a region and with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint for that region a deputy minister or deputy ministers to perform such functions as the President may determine. Chairman, may I also refer you respectively to Article 79 of the Constitution, and it provides, which is built up to Article 78, on appointment of ministers at the level of cabinet. And 79 reads, and I quote, Chairman, the President may, in consultation with the Minister of State and with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint one or more deputy ministers. So, Chairman, who did the president consult in this instance? Because as far as we are concerned, we have only considered the nomination of a proposed minister for the Bron Ahafo region in the person of Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie. Now, should the president, this is my assumption, say that he consulted with Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie, Chairman, with all respect, in the Sassan ruling of the Supreme Court in J.H. Mensah versus Attorney General, 1997, as reported, once the Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie has not had the approval of Parliament, he cannot be the person to whom the President can consult or will consult. Therefore, we find it constitutionally inappropriate to proceed further with this vetting. I want to raise that strong objection.
But Majority Leader Sechemin Sabunsu says former Bron Ahafo Minister Sumachireme was consulted when the appointment was made.
The President may elect to appoint a deputy minister for a region. He may or may not appoint a deputy minister. If he decides to appoint a deputy minister, he must consult the Minister of State. The question to ask is whether the President consulted the Minister of State. Who was the Minister of State at the time? The Minister of State at the time was the Honorable Asuma Chireme. The Minority Leader seems to draw us to the path as if the President ought to have consulted the Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie, who is not yet the substantive minister. The President could not have consulted him. The President could not have consulted him because at the time he was not the substantive minister. The substantive minister was the Honorable Asuma Chireme. And the President indeed consulted him. The letter that he quotes for us is dated 24th August. The letter the Minority Leader quotes for us is dated 24th August. Now, on record, I'm aware that the President engaged in consultation with the minister. The President did consult the Honorable Asuma Chireme on the 8th of August. On the 8th of August.
Now, multimedia journalist Chrissy Parker Wilson has been assaulted by a security detail of former President John Mahama in his quest to be elected flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress. Now, Kwesi Parker Wilson has been following him and covering his campaign of the Greater Accra region. Now, we're learning that they were at Anya where the incident happened. He joins us on the phone right now. He has been asked, or he has to be in hospital. So he joins us on the phone right now to give us details of what exactly happened. Hello, Parker. What can you tell us about this incident? First of all, very sorry for what happened to you, but you tell us what happened.
Right. Thank you very much, Israel. Yes, we were at the KNUST University where the former president was campaigning. He has been in Accra for a 5-day tour. So after addressing some delegates and students of the KNUST University, the MC announced that he was going to meet the school's authority. So we decided to follow to find out what conversation they were going to have. And I directed my cameraman to follow me. So when they got to the block, apparently the former president and his entourage entered, and the internal security were at the gate. So more like they blocked persons from entering. So I introduced myself as a journalist from Joy FM, and I wanted to cover the meeting between the former president and the university authority. And one of the guys said he wouldn't allow me into the building and that journalists were not needed there. And so in answering him, I told him that we have been with the former president since morning, and we've been directed that at least we should get inside and then also take coverage. He told me I was challenging his authority and that if he says I shouldn't enter, I should not enter. he started pushing me. So then a man who was inside noticed me and ordered the guys that, oh, I'm a media personnel from JoyFM, so they should allow me that. As I was turning to usher my cameraman into the building, the security guy slapped me and my right eye, in fact, I went off, I went blank, and I fell off. So the people around held me and took me somewhere where I had to sit and relax for a while. And as I speak to you, my right eye is tearing. I can't actually open it that much, but I'm managing. And I'm at the hospital at the moment, Israel. And let me say that the former president apologized to me personally when his attention was drawn to the fact that I had been assaulted by one of the security personnel. So the campaign spokesperson, that is James Ejenim-Boateng, dragged me to the former president where he rendered his apology and also assured me that the head of the security team will be investigating the matter and then deal with the culprit. So that is what happened.
All right, Kwesi, the former president has issued, the campaign team has issued a statement, and we'll be sharing the statement with our viewers in a bit. But I would want to find out, it sounds quite odd that this security man you're saying would assault you, because you have been with the team for a while now, and you should be quite familiar to them. So how come he didn't quite notice? Is it that he didn't notice that you were a journalist, or he simply thought that you were defying him, and so he decided to visit that actually?
Israel, all the people present at the time knew that I was a journalist, and even, let's assume, without admitting that he didn't know. At the time I was speaking to him, I had a microphone with me, and of course, you know that our microphone is always branded. So we JoyNews microphone. And again, I had my tag around my neck indicating my identity as a journalist for multimedia. So clearly, everything at the time showed that I was a journalist, because I cannot just be holding a microphone or holding a JoyNews microphone when it is not even mine. And I actually introduced myself even before asking that I wanted permission to enter. I first of all told him that I am a journalist for multimedia, and I showed him my tag, and I showed him the microphone as well, before I said that I want to enter and then take coverage of what is happening in the building. So I was taken aback, because when in fact, I wasn't looking. I was actually looking at the man who was calling me from inside. So it took me by surprise, and I didn't see it coming. All I saw was that he kept saying I'm challenging his authority, saying I should move, and then I'm not moving, I'm insisting that I want to go inside. And I was trying to explain to him that, oh, I am only here to cover the former president, who is on a campaign tour. And of course, as a news outlet, we need a lot of information from the former president. So that is why I'm here. I was only prevailing to him that he should just allow me entry. And when I get inside, I can do whatever I need to do as a journalist. And unfortunately, what happened, just slapped me that way.
Right, so that's what we have on the screen right now. Thank you very much, Kwesi Parker-Wilson. But what we have on the screen now is an image of Kwesi Parker-Wilson. Obviously, you can tell that his right eye and below his cheek, his right cheek, is actually swelling a bit. He is at the hospital right now, seeking medical treatment, and we will bring you updates as and when. But as I indicated earlier, the John Mahama 2020 campaign team has issued this statement, which I'm going to share with you. It says, incident involving news reporter. Our attention has been drawn to an unfortunate incident involving a security personnel and a reporter from JoyFM, Mr. Kwesi Parker-Wilson, during our meeting with delegates today at the Pentecost University College in the Nyaso-Otom constituency. The in charge of security has been informed, and the matter is duly being investigated. In the meantime, former President John Dramani Mahama has offered his personal apologies to Mr. Parker-Wilson for the unfortunate incident, and this is signed by James Ejenim-Boateng. He is the spokesperson of the John Mahama 2020 campaign. So as I indicated, we will be following up on this particular story, but we're getting one too many of these attacks on reporters here at Multimedia, and indeed reporters here in this country. We're taking it. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.
This is JoyNews Prime.